All right, folks, we are live on the Counter Media Podcast. I'm pretty excited about tonight. Chris is off brushing his teeth. We're going to bring him back in here in just a second. But I want to say hi to everybody out there. Jeff Johnson, Jason TG Sponsor. We got AM Atkinson. We had several other folks on here. There were some other comments, I think, that went away. Anyways, pretty exciting podcasts that we're going to be talking about tonight. I want to hear your thoughts on it as well tonight. But we're going to talk about the drones over New Jersey. And I'll be honest with you, I thought the last episode that we did on the drones over New Jersey would be the last episode that we did on the drones over New Jersey. But there's a lot of new information that's come out. I think very credible information on this that we're going to show you tonight and get your thoughts on it. I think at the end of the day, what we can agree on is that the government is absolutely lying through their teeth. I don't know if it's aliens. I don't know what it is, but I know what they're telling us is not the truth. And so with that being said, I'm going to bring on Chris. Chris, for those that don't know you, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Being down there in Australia, where do you guys celebrate Christmas? Aren't you guys stuck in like the Chinese Christmas or something weird?
We do. We have Christmas in summer, nice and hot, nice and enjoyable. No snow to be seen. But yeah, hi everyone. I'm Chris. I run Watchdog Media YouTube channel. Do a few videos on various political news stuff, and I'm now a recent member of the Counter Media Podcast with Gary.
Yeah, man, and he's done some documentaries. He's working on another documentary. I don't even know if I'm supposed to be telling people this, but really, really good and compelling stuff. And no, what I like about Chris is that he is, a lot like me. I think we both agree that, like, hey, evidence matters, the truth matters. Try to stay away from the wazoo stuff. And no, it's been good. Work with Chris has been great. And we decided to start this and do this as regularly as we can. And it's been a lot of fun so far. So what I'm going to do real quick, I know Chris has a bunch of material prepared. I just want to kind of set the table for what's going on. And if you guys haven't seen this podcast, I'm getting ready to show you a clip of the Joe Rogan podcast with Ryan Graves. And I will, if you don't know who Ryan Graves is, maybe you can look this up while you're playing it. But we're going to go ahead and
where are they landing? Who's got them? How are they being used? Is it RFI, like radio frequency? Is it some sort of a different technology that's allowing them to pilot these things? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
They'd be able to tune into that and figure it out, right? So how come no one's been arrested? How come no one's been caught? How come they haven't track these things down to the source?
Yeah, so there's a lot of good questions there. Let me back up by starting with the fact that this started about 2 years ago, at least. So,
but not like this.
A little bit like this.
Really?
So,
in this volume?
Not in this volume. That's the differentiator right there. But so Langley Air Force Base, you might be familiar with the fact that they had drone incursions of an unknown type, unknown origin last year.
Right.
That happened during about a 2.5, 3 week period right before Christmas, right where we are now. Mm-hmm. That also happened the year before over Langley. Unknown objects operating over the base. They couldn't tell where they were going. They were unprepared for them. Same period of time, 2-3 weeks before Christmas. This is year 3, right? And they were expecting them to come again for third year in a row over Langley. At least 3 years around military bases, and that's nothing to say with the incidents that we were seeing over the Eastern Seaboard and other training ranges that fighter pilots were seeing as they were doing their operations. So I'm a little hesitant to link it to the full story that we've been having here, this full conversation, but at least for 3 years this has been occurring. These objects appear to be coming from over the ocean. There's senior congressmen, there's Coast Guard personnel, there's law enforcement. They're seeing a large number of these come from somewhere over the ocean. I don't know if that means necessarily they're popping out of the water physically or if they're coming from some unknown location in the water and then proceeding over the coast.
One of their officers called 911 after seeing 50 of them come off the ocean.
Advised after we made contact with that officer that there were 50 that came off the ocean.
50?
50. That was my reaction also. There were 50 that were coming off the ocean.
And this is a sworn officer.
A sworn officer, yes. We contacted state police, we contacted the FBI, we contacted the Coast Guard, at which point the Coast Guard went out with their boat and they reported seeing 13.
They are detecting these objects through kind of normal mechanisms like radar systems, optical camera systems. They are flying very low. In some cases, they seem to be operating as a group in the vicinity of each other, flying past each other, flying very up close to each other, and then proceeding to do whatever they are that they're doing. It's an unknown right now if they are emitting energy or not. So, like radio communications or their own maybe active sensor systems. It's unknown. I've poked on that front, and the best I can tell, the government doesn't know either.
I mean, how many? What is the estimated number of them?
At this point, I'm comfortable making a guess of probably over 800 or 1,000. There's infrared camera systems, not unlike the jets or the systems that we had on my jet. But we were able to detect these objects with infrared when we were flying off the eastern seaboard. There are a number of reports from law enforcement that their infrared systems are not able to pick these objects up.
Hours earlier, I was invited to join the Ocean County Sheriff Department. They launched their own drones to see if they could intercept the mysterious aircraft New Jersey residents have been reporting in recent weeks. The department says these mystery drones evade detection because they don't give off heat like regular drones. Why do you think that is? We don't know.
And not just this year, but also the incidents over Langley last year. The pilots that responded to that incident, I've spoken to them, they weren't able to lock these up with their infrared systems either. So they do seem to be exhibiting some type of signature management.
If they have a propulsion system, so you would imagine it's some sort of an electric engine, right? Because a lot of them are very quiet. That's got to be giving off some kind of heat, right?
Yeah, and that goes to some like very base physics, right? Like,
yeah.
Hey, and look, I want to make a point right there, because it's one thing if we have drones, that law enforcement drones, like that sheriff's deputy was operating, they can't see a heat signature and aren't picking them up on the RF systems of that smaller drone. That's one thing. But when you have, F-18s or whatever, modern day U.S. fighters and their FLIR systems can't pick up that drone, that is something crazy to me. And we'll talk more a little bit about that, but that is pretty insane when we start thinking about what the technology would take to reduce a heat signature to that level.
Yeah.
We create heat whenever we have, stored energy and we utilize it. So to be able to mitigate that to such a degree that you can't even detect them at all, it's pretty tough. I mean, I can imagine you can reduce your signature. We do it in fighter jets, right? Through kind of just like baffles where we cover the engine essentially to make it harder to see. But to have zero ability to detect or lock onto these objects is not a technology I'm familiar with. Some of them do seem to be making pretty sharp turns. I wouldn't call them like physics breaking turns, but they don't seem to be operating like a normal aircraft, right? So they're down low. They're making what appear to be pretty high G turns, maybe like 3, 4, 5 G turns at relatively low air speeds, which is indicative of them having a pretty significant power supply, right? Anytime you turn like that, you're burning energy essentially. So for them to be able to make these high G maneuvers and then remain in the area for another 5 or 6 or 7 hours and still have the battery life or whatever's propelling them to then go over the ocean to a point where they're untrackable. Again, I'm not really familiar with that type of capability.
Yeah. So, it'd be one thing. And John Soper brings up a point that Chris and I have discussed multiple times in this. Hey, is this like a false flag where we talked about this a lot on the last podcast as well. Like, hey, are they basically playing this out? Are they trying to see our reactions? I think that is an absolute real possibility, no doubt about it. But set that aside for a second. When you have a flying object that can't be detected by IR systems, that indicates some technology that I just am not aware of. Because for those of you that, if you've ever used any sort of thermal devices or anything like that, what that is going to detect is heat differential. So if it's colder than the ambient air temperature, it's going to be seen. You can see that whether you're using black hot or white hot really doesn't matter. If it's hotter than ambient temperature, which we would expect any sort of powered equipment that has friction, that is, running some sort of motors, is going to be producing heat. It has to. Just like he said, that's a basic physics. For them to be able to essentially be able to control that heat signature to where it is always the same as the ambient temperature, or have, I don't know, emit some sort of field to where it is blocking IR sensors. That to me is something that I'm just not aware of. And, that if that exists, forget about whether or not this is a, false flag, a social experiment, whatever. That alone, for them to come out, have this technology, and to expose that technology the way that they are, that's a little weird to me. What do you think, Chris?
I'm not too sure what to make of it, to be honest. Because on the one hand, I'd like some kind of more confirmation. I haven't really looked into it enough, but I'd like some more confirmation of that actually happening, that there definitely is objects that are flying and that they don't have a heat signature. And if we could be sure of that, then I guess we'd have to wonder who that is. Is that American sort of secret, somewhat secret technology that they're sort of exposing, or is it foreign advanced technology? Or I suppose it could be, something even further beyond. But I'm really not too sure what to make of it, to be honest.
Yeah, and Ryan Graves actually talks about this. Look, on planes, they can reduce some heat signature, and basically what they're trying to do is reduce the exhaust, right? But just like he talks about, he said even when you can still see the plane, you can still see a differential. What those systems specifically do, it's not that you're not going to be able to see those with FLIR. You can still see the entire outline of the plane. It looks like a plane, all these systems that they have in place. What those systems are designed to do is reduce the heat signature for heat-seeking missiles. Those are a little bit different. So you can still see the plane, but what they're saying is they cannot visually detect the object because there isn't any differential or contrast on the image. So basically they're just not seeing them with their IR system. So I understand what you guys are saying. I agree. Metal Seer says the same thing. There are heat signature and reduction systems, but those don't hide the object. It's very different from what we're talking about.
I don't know if you want to play, because I only just found that gimbal footage, and I only knew that it was related to him talking to you an hour ago. But I've got that shared. I mean, you've probably got it somewhere as well. But
absolutely. Go ahead and play that.
So, because I only just saw this. I mean, I heard about it at the time, I think.
Fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the SA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is an LNS, dude. Well, if there's look at that thing. It's rotating.
Yeah, and just to give some context with that, Ryan Graves was one of the pilots on that mission. I'm not sure if he was the one videoing that or if either one of those were his voices, but that was from 2004. And he was one of the pilots on that mission. He was one of the people that came and testified in front of Congress recently. And once he got out of the Navy, that's all he's been doing. He's been investigating different UAP situations. And I think he's about as credible of a source of information that you're going to get. And he talks a lot about that. If you guys haven't seen that full episode, I highly recommend to go watch it. It's very entertaining, regardless of what your thoughts are on the New Jersey drones.
He mentioned about the sharp turns. I'm not sure if he's talking about private videos he's seen or public videos. I don't know if there's any public videos out there showing really sharp turns. I haven't seen any. I'm not sure if he was referring to public videos or.
So I almost included it before you even brought that up. I almost included it in that clip. I found a couple of clips where another local law enforcement guy was talking about how they were observing them, and they were making 180-degree turns, like they were coming at them. And he said they looked like they were fixed wing, but suddenly they were essentially just flying the other way. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of reports of a lot of different things out there. I think it's and even if you get more context of what Ryan Graves is talking about, I think he is very careful about at least his sources. And he's very careful about the information that he's putting out. So, you can take that for what it is. I agree with you. It'd be nice to have, but again, I did at least see some anecdotal, firsthand testimony from local law enforcement of them observing with their drones what these drones were doing during the daylight hours.
Yeah, there's probably I think as you were saying to me before, there's probably a few different things going on. It's not one or the other. There could be some sort of strange drone activity going on. At the same time, there's a lot of sort of fake videos and people sort of piling on and maybe a bit of hysteria, and you get a lot of sort of fake news mixed in there. And then you got the government that's sort of talking out of both sides of their mouth. One senator, is it a senator or congressman of some kinds, that drew someone? We played last week,
I know you're talking
about the
about
Iranian mothership. And then you've got other ones that saying that there's nothing to see here. I don't know if you want to share my window, bear with me, because I loaded up a couple of little things.
I don't want to share your window.
Well, I think you should. I think,
well, that's
put it to a vote.
As soon as you get a window up there, I'll share it. That is the crazy thing, and that's been to me the frustrating. And one of the things that we'll talk about tonight a little bit is we, for a while there, we had all of these, excuse me, local and federal officials downplaying it, like, oh, it's just nothing, and then suddenly it kind of, I think it got beyond that. They could no longer downplay it to that extent. But as we're getting ready to you're getting ready to show, is they want to actually increase legislation, rules, and everything else around this. Well, it's either one or the other. But I'll go ahead and add your. There you go.
Yeah, I had a few things. This wasn't, well, it's sort of related to what I'm thinking. This was Mayorkas. I don't think we had time to get to this. I haven't actually watched this, but I imagine he's sort of downplaying it like the rest of the government, so I might as well.
Absolutely, George, and thank you very much for having me. There's no question that people are seeing drones, and I want to assure the American public that
15.
we in the federal government have
14.
deployed additional resources, personnel, technology to assist the New Jersey State Police in addressing the drone sightings. Some of those drone sightings are, in fact, drones. Some are manned aircraft that are commonly mistaken for drones, and we do see duplicative reporting. But there's no question that drones are being sighted. Let me set the record straight here, George. There are thousands of drones flown every day in the United States. Recreational drones, commercial drones. That is the reality. And in September of 2023, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, changed the rules so that drones could fly at night. And that may be one of the reasons why now people are seeing more drones than they did before, especially from dawn to dusk. And
so I think that's the main gist of that. Typical kind of thing that we've heard from Kirby and a few other people, that, a lot of these are either planes or they're just people flying drones legally.
And as Jeff Johnson points out, I do think a majority of these have navigation lights on them, which is pretty crazy. Even I didn't include it again. I didn't want to make it too long, but there was footage from that same news broadcast where they actually are filming one that they're confirming is one of the drones that is unknown. It's not an airplane, but it looks like a small fixed wing type of airplane with those like red and green lights on it. So, it's a little weird.
Yeah, this may be a bit of a random side point, but I saw some news interviewer somewhere. I probably got the link somewhere. The news is interviewing someone, some kind of expert, maybe a local police authority or something. And he was basically saying, we know they're not foreign because they've got the lights on, which was kind of a funny line, but okay, maybe that's not a bad point or whatever. It's just a random, because she's like real serious. How do you know that these aren't Chinese drones? He's like, well, because they've got the lights on. If they were the enemy, they wouldn't do that. So,
well, duh.
There you go.
There it is. Proof.
Yeah.
What
so
do you got here?
I haven't actually read through this, but I imagine, so this is a joint response from the DHS, FBI, FAA, Department of Defense. It's basically the same kind of thing that we heard from Mayorkas, or however you pronounce his name, and Kirby, and the Pentagon before, basically saying, yeah, there's a lot of drones. Basically saying they're just getting noticed more There's not more drones. Well, there might be more drones, but they're also getting noticed more and filmed more. Yeah, they're a combination of lawful commercial drones, hobbyist drones, and law enforcement drones, as well as manned aircraft, helicopters, stars, mistakenly reported as drones. I think we covered some of them last week.
Yeah,
It's a similar line. There's not much happening, but we'll keep an eye on it. And we urge Congress to enact counter UAS legislation. Even though we're basically saying there's nothing really going on, we still want to pass this legislation to give more power to various agencies. I think more on the local side, but I'm not 100% sure.
100%. So, and one of the things that I found several reports actually confirming what Ryan Graves was talking about, how that there was incursions of drones, unidentified drones, both in 2022 and 2023 around the same time period. And those are the ones that he said, hey, look, you know what, we had pilots scrambled and were responding to those, and those are the ones they couldn't pick up. He said he talked to them face to face. So this has been going on longer than they want to admit. And it really does start to irritate me when they or I'm very suspicious once they start downplaying things. Like, nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Just like Con said here. It's like Frank Drebin standing in front of the fireworks store while it's blowing up, saying nothing to see, move along, nothing to see. It's exactly right. But then at the same time, you have other officials. And that's the thing is, like, all throughout this event, we've had White House officials, DOD officials, like, talking out of both sides of their mouth. And it's been a little nuts to watch. They can't even get the story straight. But, that is the Biden administration in a nutshell.
And it is interesting, even though they're talking out of both sides of their mouth, it's either Iranian motherships, we need to shoot them down, there's a grave threat, or there's nothing to see here. They both agree we need to pass all this legislation that's currently going through the House. Doesn't matter what side of the mouth. They don't agree. They're quite contradictory, but they come to agree on the fundamental issue of more.
We need more money. We need more
power.
authority over the American people to fix these drones that are in the air. That's what we need.
Yeah. Yeah. Whether we think there are drones in the air that are sus or not, we need the legislation to do all that. But
yeah, we have no idea what these are.
I haven't gone through this. I imagine this is a pretty good article. Apparently, I think it's behind a paywall though, so it's harder to sort of see. But it sort of goes through a bunch of images and basically makes out most of them are near airports, and a lot of them are planes, and
That's a helicopter.
But you always, New York Times, don't really trust them. They can do things where they debunk something by showing a couple of videos and go, well, this isn't quite right. And then they ignore all these other more important videos. So
yeah,
it's important to keep
there could be 800 actual drones that we have no idea was, and they'll show 3 pictures or videos of modern aircraft, conventional aircraft, and see, no drones.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of people saying the wrong things.
That's a good point. So keep that in mind when looking at this debunking or whatever. But as I said, there's probably a truth all around. Like a lot of these things probably are exaggerated. Probably a lot of these things are not suspicious drones. So this kind of debunking stuff or nothing to see here stuff might be right in some sense. But then on the other side, it seems to be quite a lot of testimony of some suspicious stuff going on.
AM says it nicely. We don't know what it is, but you're safe. Don't worry about it. Go back to
yeah. As long as he keeps supporting us and giving us what we want, you'll be safe.
Exactly. If this was prior to the election, it'd be like, all I know is as long as you don't vote for Trump, you'll be safe. we think that Trump is colluding with the aliens.
I don't know if it's worth showing that that Biden clip.
Oh, absolutely.
Nothing nefarious. All right, I have to share something. Bear with me. Stop and present. Eventually, we're going to figure out how to do this better, but we've got a little workaround for now. Brave tab, breaking news, Biden comments. All right, should be shared now. Yeah.
Play it.
It's a bit hard to hear. But he basically says there's nothing nefarious, but they're looking into it, and a lot of people are getting in on the drone action.
All those drones over New Jersey. What's behind all?
So he's just being asked. It's hard to hear. You can hear him a bit better, but what's going on with the drones over New Jersey?
Nothing nefarious, apparently, but they're checking it all out. I think it's just one. There's a lot of drones authorized up there. I think one started and they all got it. Everybody's wanting to get in the deal. But we're following it closely. So far, no sense of the danger.
Will you speak to Prime Minister Netanyahu about a ceasefire deal?
So yeah, I think that's that.
They all just want to get in the deal. That's the official statement.
Yeah, people just want to get in on that drone deal, which is what, to fly a drone, I suppose.
Want to get in on the deal. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think over there in the comments? I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about this. If it is our government, and I think it's like 80, I'm like 85% sure that it's our own government or sections of our government. But I also do think, and Ryan Graves talks about this as well, like if that's what's going on, then we have a very small portion of our government, or at least our taxpayer-funded entities. I don't even want to say our government. Some taxpayer-funded entities that are exhibiting technology and are making technologies and capabilities extremely public. That is a little weird, and I'm curious to what end, because I am convinced to some extent there's at least some portions of the government, these people getting up here talking, I don't think they know what these things are. So I'm just trying to figure out what the government angle is, and or if there are these skunk work projects going on. I'm just trying to figure out why they would do that. The other part of this, the other thing that I lean more towards the most is going back to whether it's nuclear, biological, or chemical detection systems, and then they're just trying to confuse everybody because they don't want people to know that they are looking for something over New Jersey. I think that, to me, is probably one of the most likely answers on all of this. That seems to make the most sense.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Jury's still out for me. I guess I'm still just more focused on the government. They sort of do it tricky because on the one hand they're saying there's nothing to see here, but I think that's just a bit of a cover for the real op of them really trying to scare us about drones and overhyping it and pushing through all this legislation, which we might go through.
I think last week that was definitely, or whenever we had the last podcast, I think it was last week, that was my conclusion. Hey man, you know what? They got a bunch of drones up in the air. They're trying to make people scared and afraid so that they can convince them to pass new laws. Again, and the other thing that I still go back to is they could be doing multiple things at once, and they're getting the most juice out of this squeeze. Is they can do all the above. I don't think any of those things are mutually exclusive. So, they could be doing multiple things at once. They could be testing new technologies. They could be maybe there's a freaking nuclear warhead loose on the eastern shore and we don't even freaking know. And they're looking for that, and or other biological or chemical or nuclear material that we're not aware of. So they're using this as a test run for this technology. On top of that, guess what? They get to scare the American people and then capitalize on that and then push for additional legislation that, once again, intrudes on our own rights. And I do think, and we talked a little bit about this last week, I do think we really need to start looking at drones as like the newest Second Amendment. That's the new musket as far as I'm concerned. I think we as Americans, we need to make sure that we hold on to the ability to bear drones. We have the right to bear drones. We need that stuff because as far as being able to push back against government tyranny in the future, I think it's going to be a key element of technology to where we can use that for self-defense. And we need that. And we need to make sure that we don't allow them to push these narratives to scare us into giving the rights of our current abilities to use drones for whatever we want to use them for over to the government. That shouldn't be how this works.
Yeah, I agree. Even if we're not 100% sure exactly what's going on, we should know to oppose government having another little power grab, regardless of exactly what's going on. When they're sort of pushing for more things, we should probably oppose that without
100%.
even knowing 100% what's going on there. We should at least know that the government is not to be trusted with that kind of stuff. Or it's like, I was just about to say, Harold's got another theory there. And I've got that on my screen too, the window, the proof of... Share my screen, we've got proof of Harold's theory there. This is what's really going on.
Corroborated that theory. Boom.
That's right. So I don't know if you want me. While I'm here, I could go over the those two laws. There was this one, the 2018 Preventing Emerging Threats Act of 2018. I think that gets renewed. I think that was renewed about a year ago, and it was set to expire December 20. We covered that last time. This is the bill here, in case anyone wants to.
And they
they
were able to successfully add that to the continuing resolution. Is that what you found out on that?
Yeah. So here it is. Here's the continuing resolution, or the government funding that extended funding and kept the government running till March, I believe. So they had all this stuff, Medicare, agriculture, all this, and in Division E, other matters, protection from certain facilities and assets from unmanned aircraft. So on the last page of this thing, they just changed the end date of that last. I'm pretty sure it's this last bill. They both end at the same time. If it's not the same bill, they are related. So yeah, they did manage to extend that during the recent bill they passed. But then they got that one, but that doesn't have as much power as I think as this one, which is we also mentioned this last time as well. It's another bill. I believe it was introduced earlier in the year. Actually, maybe not. They're saying 2023. Might have the wrong bill there. But one of these bills, it was passed by, introduced by this Gary Peters, I think, and someone else. So they're trying to push this through. And at that hearing we talked about last time, we saw they were saying we want to extend that previous deal we just mentioned, the Act, but we also want to go further. And I think that's with this one. And this one they talk about...
that was Eli Crane actually pushing that, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was, the Ukraine guy plus a few others. Basically people from, the energy industry, from whatever the guy is in Ukraine, plus the Department of Justice.
No,
all coming together.
Eli Crane was the one saying, oh, you guys need more funding than that.
Yeah, I think he asked that to the FBI guy, I think.
Yeah.
And before the guy could even answer how much his money was, Eli Crane's like, oh, sure, that's not enough. Why isn't everyone asking for more? Well, I think they are. I think they'll probably get more. But yeah, so this is the deal that Rand Paul blocked, and I say good on Rand Paul. So I don't know if we want to play a little bit of the arguments for.
Play a little bit of Chuck, play a little bit of Peters, both of them saying the same normal shit that Democrats say. We need more money and we're going to scare you into giving us more power. We don't have audio.
Sorry, what did you say?
We don't have audio on this side.
Oh, okay, but
sorry.
Technical things.
But yeah, again, it's the same stuff that we always hear. And then luckily we have somebody that has a level head like Rand Paul that comes in and says, hey, what about the Constitution? What about our rights? None of these politicians, there's very few, both on the left and the right, that even consider our personal protections and civil liberties anymore. And luckily there is at least one, Rand Paul, and a couple others out there. Go ahead.
The FBI, the DHS, the FAA, and the DOD, the Department of Defense, all support. The Senate should pass our bill without delay. Our bill, among other things, explicitly authorizes state and local authorities to conduct drone detection and helps them better coordinate with federal law enforcement agencies to keep communities safe. The people in New York and New Jersey have a lot of questions.
Pause that for just a second.
They're not getting good enough.
Yeah.
So I just want to point out, does anybody here feel like that law enforcement is currently doing a great job enforcing the laws that they have on the books, and they're fully investigating the problems that they have to solve now? And so now we're going to redirect some of these same people away from I don't know, investigating crimes, investigating assaults, murders, preventing crime, being out there on the street, dealing with people. And now we're going to move them away from that, and we're going to have them look for people flying drones where they shouldn't, so they can give little Timmy with his drone that he got for Christmas, so they can give him a freaking ticket, take his drone, and then give him a freaking, $500 fine or whatever it is. This is so stupid. This irritates the shit out of me, to be honest with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I guess the bill it's talking about more powers to do a bunch of things, including stopping drones going over sort of secure areas or something.
Sure.
The Rand Paul comes in and says, "Look, that's already against the law. We already have laws for that." And that seems a typical thing. The government points to a problem and says, "Oh, because of this, we need to pass all these extra laws," when what they're pointing at is already against the law in the first place.
Yeah, it's the gun control paradox. Like, if we just outlawed murder, then we wouldn't have to have gun control, right? But if we make guns illegal, then it will suddenly stop murder and everything else. Makes no sense, but yet these asshat politicians, they think it sounds good. And then we have stupid Americans that fall for this nonsense. And stupid Australians, especially them. They really fell for it.
Hey, I was a bit young when all that went down. I didn't really understand gun stuff. Anyway, back to Chuck. Right?
Yep, back to Chuck.
Answers. The utter confusion surrounding these drone sightings shows that the feds can't respond all on their own. They need help detecting these drones from local officials who have neither the resources nor the explicit authority to act. In the bill
I think that's generally the gist of Chuck. I can probably skip on to
These
that.
are law enforcement authorities.
That's probably the gist of both him
Hobby
and
flights
Bill
to
Blake Peters.
commercial
Yeah, they'll probably say the same thing.
applications as well as law enforcement activities. Drones can offer important societal and economic benefits, but they can also cause problems if they are not used appropriately. Recently in New Jersey, we've seen reports of loud and menacing drones. And while the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and other key agencies have assured the public that these drones pose no immediate Homeland Security threat, they have certainly caused unease and concern for many Americans.
Pause that real quick right there.
Rogue drones
Here
can
we are.
interfere with commercial air
probably
traffic,
have-
as we saw with the recent closure.
Sorry, it took me a while to find it. Yep.
That's okay. We probably have the government creating these loud drones that are causing all this problem. And so now we need to make laws that aren't going to prevent the government flying these drones that are causing all the problems. Like, come on, people, wake up. Red herring among us. All right, whatever, play it.
And even that line, he said something like that, the government says there's no threat, but they have caused unease. So we just going to have to take more power. We don't want you to be uneasy.
It's like have you seen all these police officers running through the streets with these guns? It's very menacing. We need to take guns from civilians. Like this, that's the same logic that he's using right there. It's hilarious.
Closure of runways at a New York airport, as well as large public gatherings like football games or concerts. The National Football League, a key supporter of this legislation, has shared that at recent seasons, they have seen more than 2,500 drones violate the airspace around stadiums, and in some cases leading to them stopping the football games to resolve potential threats to their fans as well as to their teams.
Well, I wonder if that's already against the law, and maybe if someone's flying where they're not supposed to.
It is
maybe
against
they
the
already
law.
have. Yeah, surely they can deal with that already. But anyway, I think he's got what else?
Give us some Rand Paul common sense.
I'll give you one more not common sense, and then we'll go to Rand Paul. Where are we?
And that's why my bill would allow the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice to operate a pilot program so that state and local law enforcement agencies can conduct drone mitigation activities to safely disable threatening drones before they cause serious harm. This legislation has strong bipartisan support here in the U.S.
You always got to watch out for that. Bills with the strong bipartisan support. Usually no
Those
good.
are the worst ones.
So yeah, time for a bit of Rand Paul, a bit of breath of fresh air. I don't know if we'll play the whole thing, but the whole thing's worth checking out if other people want to see.
Is there an objection?
what
Madam
we don't- whatever
President.
we don't cover.
Senator from Kentucky.
Oh, it's worth showing how he tried to rush it through.
The bill as amended be considered, which is proceed to its immediate of S6 security and government affairs be discharged from further consideration of S1631.
He's trying to rush it through, basically.
And the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration that the Peters substitute amendment, which is at the desk, be considered and agreed to, and the bill as amended be considered, read a third time, and passed. And the motion to reconsider be considered, made, and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Is there an objection?
Madam President,
Senator from Kentucky.
reserving the right to object. No one disputes that drones flying in airspace could be a danger. The drones flying over the Super Bowl could be a danger. The drones flying over our military bases could be a danger. That's why it's illegal. It's currently illegal, and the federal government has the capacity to investigate and stop drones that are in airspace, over our military bases, following our ships. We have that capacity. But what is disputed, and what the Biden administration is currently telling us, is they don't see a problem. So if there is a problem, let the Biden administration be forthcoming. Let us know the extent of the problem. Let us know who's flying the drones, and let us know what's going on. Instead, this bill says, well, we don't know. The Biden administration doesn't know, but why don't we give the power to the local officials to go after drones? But I rise today to object to this unanimous consent request because at the time, public trust in government is in historic lows. This body must not rush to grant sweeping surveillance powers without proper consideration and debate by the committees of jurisdiction, which is what I pledged to do beginning in January when we will be in charge of the committees. Yet what is going on is exactly what this legislation seeks to do now, is to expand federal authority to intercept communications and disrupt drone activity, powers that raise serious concerns for Americans' privacy, civil liberties, and Fourth Amendment protections against unwarranted search and seizure. We are being told this legislation is urgent, that it is needed to address an imminent drone threat, yet the government itself admits no such threat exists. So either there is a threat or there isn't a threat, but the Biden administration keeps saying, well, it's all normal stuff and it's just planes. So it is or it isn't. Why don't we try to get to the truth of the matter of what actually exists and what the threat is before we propose legislation? Federal agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, have stated clearly that there is no current national security risk, no public safety concern, and no unlawful drone activity requiring intervention. So there either is a problem or there isn't a problem. If there is a problem, let's discuss how to do it while protecting the communications of innocent Americans whose communications could be caught up in this legislation. Until the assessment, the federal assessment changes. The assessment that it isn't a problem changes to that it is a problem, and these are the malefactors. These are the people that are orchestrating this. Let's get that from the Biden administration. Tell us what the problem is. Tell us the extent of the problem. Instead, the Biden administration is saying there's not a problem. So, Madam President, this pattern is all too familiar. History has shown us time and time again how fear and manufactured urgency are used as pretexts to expand government power at the expense of freedom. After 9/11, Congress passed the Patriot Act. In the name of security, Americans were promised that these surveillance powers were necessary. They would only be directed towards foreigners. They would only be directed towards terrorists until we discovered that these powers were being used on Americans. Americans were promised that these powers were necessary and temporary. Instead, they were abused, misused, and weaponized. Innocent Americans had their privacy violated, their data collected, and their rights trampled. The lesson here is clear. When Congress legislates in haste, without careful scrutiny, without debate, and without accountability, it is the American people who suffer the consequences. Today, we are facing a similar moment. The bill before us would grant law enforcement significant authority to intercept private electronic communications without consent. For example, the bill would allow the government to conduct dragnet surveillance of the phones innocent Americans traveling through U.S. airports as long as the government claims they are doing it to neutralize a drone. So in order to look at the information that might be coming to a drone, it may be that you capture all the information of everybody surrounding an airport or everybody who lives near an airport. Once you have all that data, what are the assurances that the government isn't looking at your data in addition to the data that may be related to flying the drone? This is not just about security. It's about unchecked government overreach. It's about capitalizing on fear and media-driven hysteria to jam through sweeping legislation that could violate the civil liberties of American people. Congress has a constitutional responsibility to serve as a check on the executive power, not as a rubber stamp for it. The federal government already has the power to deal with drones. The federal government already has the power to stop any drones that are in airspace around airports. The federal government already has the power to protect its air bases. So if there is a significant problem here, the Biden administration needs to come forward and let us know, who are these drones? Who's operating these drones? What is the federal government doing to protect either airports or bases from this? Instead, we are told by the Biden administration there is no threat to our national security. So let's first insist on truth and transparency from the Biden administration before
Chris,
offering up legislation that is feel good.
That gets us where we need to be. At least we have some common sense coming out of Rand Paul for sure. So Renegade wants to talk about a couple of key points here that I think we need to clarify. So yeah, we have supposedly, allegedly, and that's another thing too. I think we need to clarify. They said coming from the ocean. I don't know if that actually means they see them coming out of the water, but basically coming from the direction of the ocean. That would be interesting to be able to clarify. And Ryan Graves even talks about that. He's like, I'm not sure. Those reports aren't very clear. You know, they would basically have to be coming from a submersible type platform. I mean, I think that's the only, unless they were coming from a ship, which we should be able to identify. But again, if it's our ship, then it could be sitting out there and the U.S. government and the news isn't going to say anything about it. So there's that. That is another good point here that Renegade makes is these aren't Walmart drones. We're not talking about something that we normally see. This isn't DJI. These are something very different. And then they have reported these extended flight times that don't make sense. So that is, most of especially the larger drones, you're only going to get like 20 to 30 minutes usually out of this. I'm sure that they can make them fly a lot longer. As somebody stated, the Predators, some of the other drones that we have in the U.S. arsenal, really those are fixed wing aircraft that are just manned, are controlled remotely. A little bit different in that, but even those are usually launched from theater and then controlled from Nevada. I think somebody brought that up. So, and then he said something else. Renegade, you said something else. I didn't tag that one. Something about leaving F-16s in the dust. I don't think that actually ever was stated. We have these different flight systems, whether it's F-18s, F-16s, that are monitoring them. I don't think it's ever been stated that these particular drones ever was able to outperform our military aircraft. We did say that, or it has been reported that they weren't able to see them sometimes with FLIR. So those are kind of separate things altogether. Just want to make sure we're talking about that. Sub or a barge, absolutely. This guy says a YouTuber chartered a boat off the coast of New Jersey, said drones came in waves, then scattered when they got over land. That's interesting. But again, where are they being launched from? That's what I would like to see. And the U.S. government has to know this. And somebody was asking about who lost the lung. That's me. I'm here in West Virginia, and apparently for Christmas, I got the black lung. What else you got, Chris?
Just the mention of DJI. I came across this on my screen. So I guess the NDAA was passed recently, and they were thinking about putting in some countering Chinese drones act, but I guess they didn't just yet. So this is a DJI blog of some kind. I don't know the connection exactly, but they're sort of just saying, I guess they're somewhat relieved, but a bit concerned about the future. DJI welcomes the scrutiny and looks forward to the opportunity to demonstrate our privacy controls and security features. However, we have some concerns. They say they're getting unfairly singled out.
You shut your dirty mouth, Jeff. Just shut your dirty mouth.
So we do have good investigative minds in the chat,
Yeah, we do.
That was just it. Just
pretty soon we'll find out more on this dynamic situation. Some civilian drone defense contractors are currently organizing equipment to get to the bottom of it. When the government is no help, it's up to us. Yeah, and I think Ryan Graves is running an organization to do exactly that, among many other folks out there. I think between the UAP phenomenon and now we have the drone phenomenon, these things are going to be identified most likely. Our best chance of disclosure and transparency is definitely going to come from, a civilian answer.
I don't know if you want to play that. This isn't too serious or whatever, but just to throw something a little bit more light in there. Remember that footage of that guy that shot down a drone and got in trouble with the cops, but he was kind of likable?
Yeah, I do. You got that?
That's worth playing a little bit of that?
Absolutely.
I was thinking about that last week, but actually I think I have to stop sharing that and then share the tab.
Let me address this real quick. So the FAA allows testing of the air taxis back in October. That's true, but those are flights that weren't authorized during only during hours of daylight. So I know this has been brought up several times. We can almost for sure determine that what people are seeing is not these air taxis. So that's my thought on that. Yep. Go ahead, play that.
Yeah. I wish I found a shorter clip because I don't know exactly where the best bits are or whatever. But yeah, basically this guy, I don't know if you know his name or his story or what happened to him in the end, but he shot at a drone and the cops came to ask about it. And I don't know, there's something kind of wholesome about this, even though it's, I don't know, someone getting in trouble for breaking the law, I suppose.
Did a drone fly over your house and you shoot at it? I'm gonna be real blunt with you and ask.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, why'd you shoot at it?
Because I thought it was somebody and turn around playing games on my house.
I got you. Where did you see the drone at?
Right above me.
What, can you walk out and just kind of show me?
Right there.
Sitting straight above it?
Straight above me.
Do you have any idea?
Hovered, lowered some kind of cord down or something, turned around and sent something back up, and then after it was shot at, it turned around and went north.
Gotcha. Okay. What'd you shoot at it with?
9mm.
Okay.
How much trouble am I in?
Quite a bit. You've been honest with me, I'm gonna be honest with you. Quite a bit, actually. So there's a federal charge that goes along with it. There's a felony charge that goes along with it. That's kind of like where we're at.
Okay.
Okay.
What happens and what?
Well, before we continue this conversation, I'm really just, for you being honest, you really just took me off guard. I'm not gonna lie.
What am I gonna do? I'm gonna lie?
True. All right, sir. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be...
Surely the cops should have a little bit of discretion of like, well, he was a pretty cool guy, so we let him.
I'm just going to arrange you the Miranda warning just so I can get it out. That way you and I can continue our conversation, okay?
I understand the Miranda warning. I'm
not too familiar with this video. I don't know if people in chat know it better. Whether
I have to speak to you unless I want an attorney. Okay.
I got you.
Well, the casing should be out here.
You didn't even pick it up?
No, I didn't.
Probably didn't even think about it, huh? Yeah, someone's lawnmower will find it. But I'll come back out here and I'll look for it again. Let's head over there. We'll
I'm sorry. So at first it came out as they were doing drops, and then what they do is they have two.
Shoot at it and wasn't concerned about where the round landed. I guess was one of the biggest headaches.
I'm calling.
No, I mean I don't know where I'm going or anything.
Patty, call Bobby. Tell Bobby you need to get up to the jail with Tavares. Oh God.
How about this? You want a coffee in the front?
Whatever you need to do about protocol.
Yeah. You've been fine. There's no issues. We're not,
Yeah.
Just let me know if it's too tight, all right?
I can't breathe. what I'm supposed to do?
All right, let's gotta make sure all your pockets are empty.
Oh, Bobby? Yeah.
Oh,
He's gotta be home. Fine, take a picture.
She's gonna hit you, and we're not gonna say anything.
I know that.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
The cul-de-sac roadway and several other residences. An officer also noticed a small child when he arrived on scene. He also
because he admitted to firing his weapon.
Yeah, I'm not sure the outcome of all that. I don't know if
Yeah,
someone in the chat can let
so, I
us know
mean,
what happened to him.
hopefully people, I don't know, there's some key points here. Number one, don't shoot at drones. That is a federal offense if you're not aware of that. Number two, talk to a lawyer. Don't say anything. Jesus Christ. Never tell the cops anything.
Yeah. He's likable because he's honest, but he really shouldn't be. You know?
Oh, dear God. Yeah, he is super likable. You know, you're right. And I don't know how, especially when you're dealing with he discharged a firearm, and on top of that, you know, he committed a federal offense. I don't know how much discretion he has to go against that. I mean, but regardless, just shut up. Just shut up. Oh, Jesus.
So I'm not sure if I had too much on drone stuff. I mean, I've got a few links, but I haven't really gone through them. I don't know if there's anything too interesting in there. There's
Formula One race weekends. They show hundreds, not thousands. Yeah. So, I mean, again, there's a lot of cool things that you can do as a civilian. And of course, if you're doing commercially, now they have the drone swarms that they do these light shows with that are freaking pretty amazing. A lot of cool stuff with that. But again, I really do, man. To me, that's like the modern day firearm. And we see how drones are being used to unconventionally fight a guerrilla warfare against a larger, more equipped force, and how successful they are. To me, man, they need to take those drones, put them right up underneath there under the Second Amendment, and make sure that we always have access to it. But they're already thinking about this stuff, folks. So, you know, don't fall for it. Be smart.
As we should have covered last week, there was that guy from some think tank that was working with Ukraine. And he kept stressing that. He's like, these drones are kind of amazing. There's a lot of potential there. And he didn't quite say this in the same framing that you are, but he's pointing out of how a little group like the Ukrainians or the American people or whatever local population sort of could have an edge over the government in a way using drones. So even though I didn't explicitly say that they're worried about that, they're aware of it and they would be concerned about their own population.
Oh, they're aware of it, whether they say it out in public or not. They'll frame it differently. They'll frame it, hey, you know what, terrorists could use this to harm the populace, blah, blah, blah. All the same arguments they use against guns and reasons they give to try to take guns out of the law-abiding citizens' hands. Fact is, we all know, number one, you can build a drone in your basement. Yeah, so, you know, if terrorists want drones, they can get drones. That's not even a thing. Yeah, and there are kids that are there's people that are going to be injured by drones. There's you know, I don't know if there's ever been a documented case where a drone has like caused an airplane to crash. I do know there has been documented cases early on when DJI was coming out with these, you know, civilian drones that and I don't think they even had, you know, controlled airspaces and stuff, or were really addressing that at the beginning. This is many years ago, but I do know there were several cases where drones did actually crash into airplanes. So, you know, again, there's risks. Liberty is dangerous, folks. Liberty is dangerous. There's no doubt about it. The only thing more dangerous than liberty is the lack thereof.
I don't know if you want to. There's a short little news clip about potentially banning the Chinese drones.
This drone operation happening today?
On the rocky slopes of this California vineyard, farmer Al Staley's team uses drones to spray pesticides on grapes.
The computer controls the rate per acre, which is very important to us when we're putting on nutrients or pesticides.
Making it faster and safer than applying the old way.
There's not the trip and fall issues. There's not the knee injuries, all the things that we worry about with hand application.
From farms to electric utilities to police departments, drones have become essential for both government and business, including NBC News. The vast majority are made in China by one company, DJI, inside this futuristic factory. But the Pentagon calls it a Chinese military company.
If that software is being originated in China and controlled ultimately by the Communist Party of China, at any point, that drone could become a liability.
Congress has passed a bipartisan bill that paves the way to ban the sale of Chinese-made drones in the U.S., including consumer models used by millions of Americans. After a year, sales of new Chinese drones would likely be halted, but existing ones could still be used.
We're all going to be safer if these drones are made somewhere other than, at the end of the day, controlled ultimately by the Chinese Communist Party.
In January, the FBI warned that the threat from Chinese-made drones poses a significant risk to critical infrastructure and U.S. national security. The fear that images and data collected by the drones could secretly be sent to China. DJI strongly disputes any connection to the military or the Chinese Communist Party and says it's willing to work with U.S. leaders to prove its drones are harmless.
We've asked for evidence that there's some sort of backdoor or data security issue with our products. All we've been gotten in response is hypotheticals about what our products could do, but no evidence of actual wrongdoing.
Al Staley says for him, the ban would be a setback. And nothing on the market is as good as DJI's drones.
There are some American-made. The wait list is extreme, costs a lot more money. What is the risk to society if China knows what I'm doing in my vineyard?
Ken Delanian, NBC News.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC.
Yeah, I would love to see some American-made drones out there, but just like we talked about, they're going to end up costing twice as much. We have the labor rates that we have in the United States, and that's something that we see regularly in the gear that we sell. People say, "Well, why are these bipods $400?" Well, they're made in America. You can't, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like we have, with these large companies, we see that same thing. We've seen continual increase in car prices and everything else as we continue to ship production overseas and almost everything. And that's another thing that really concerns me about the future of this country, without a doubt. You got another video, Chris?
Yeah, there's something just recently. Can't remember exactly, but it's some kind of proposal. I don't know how serious it is to allow. I don't know if it's local people. I imagine it must be local authorities to shoot down drones.
Drop in drone sightings as we move on to this next story. Some businesses and local law.
Oh, and they mentioned, there's a drop in drone sightings recently.
Enforcement, they want the power to shoot down suspected airborne threats, including drones, without approval from the U.S. military. While the federal government has downplayed any danger, there are a lot of folks living in New Jersey, New York. They want to be able to just protect themselves. And lawmakers are considering taking action on this. News Nation's Joe Khalil live in Washington, D.C. with details. Joe, I mean, how realistically soon could this happen where people have the right to just shoot them down?
I don't think that's in the cards at all for individuals or for businesses. I think it's really unrealistic. But for local and state law enforcement, I think that's another question. The obvious question, as we've seen these drone sightings over New Jersey and New York, is what are these things? Where are they coming from? But beyond that, the next question, and from our perch in Congress, where we've been hearing this a lot, talking to senators, House members, is who has the authority to make the call, to bring them down, to investigate them, to potentially do something in between there? That answer is not exactly clear, but lawmakers are in a position to do something about it. So we heard a lot of conversations about passing new bills that might actually give the authority not only to the DOD and the Pentagon and the military, but rather to state and local officials, state and local law enforcement, if they were to see a drone. What are the rules of engagement? Those rules have not yet been written into law.
Yes, I don't know if it's worth watching.
Several attempts to try to do this in the last couple of months. The most prominent one, I'd say, came from Senator Gary.
A recent news story.
Yeah, that's just a stupid proposal altogether. Number one, first of all, we already know that we have Well, let's back up. First of all, they're not going to hit shit. We're talking about a drone that's probably 5, 6 at closest, 6, 7, 800 yards at the very nearest to anybody. And now we're going to do this long range shooting at a moving target in the air. There's so many different variables that you'll never hit a drone. But then on top of that, we already know that drones are getting confused with regular aircraft. So now we're going to have people out in the streets shooting, helicopters and, airplanes. And of course, that's when somebody will get lucky and actually hit one of those. Next thing that they're coming down. So that's just dumb. But yeah, I do think the reality is that the government's lying to us, no matter what. The government, some portions of the government, and no matter what, the government is going to, capitalize on this and try to get more power and take rights from us. Like that's the reality. They're going to take our privacy. They're going to try to have the ability to, just like Rand Paul said, be able to, exploit our phones in the name of security and safety. And that just never works out. It's never good. Never is. Yeah. My wife's like the DJI to put perfume on. We can't get U.S. ships not to shoot down F-18. Well, that's a good point. That's an excellent point. That is another. Yeah, so there's been a couple of articles that they're trying to identify these. I've seen most of those debunked. I don't know if all of these were included in that, but I did see that the Taro Dynamics XP4 supposedly that there was some pictures of saying, and then I found other articles saying that wasn't correct. I don't know. Maybe that's correct. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I do think they're having a hard time identifying those. But again, we have portions of the government lying to us. The other thing I think is peculiar, I was looking right up going into Christmas, we saw a drop in sightings. And as far as I can find, the last sighting was December 23rd. So there is good evidence that the drones and or drone operators or aliens are either Christians that observe Christmas and or possibly Jewish folks observing Hanukkah. So that's another possibility that we need to consider.
I've got a video, not specifically about Christmas Day, but just about how the drone sightings have dropped. And I think this is only from a day ago, so it might be fairly recent.
Started appearing, those mystery drone sightings along the East Coast are falling off. But after more than a month of seeing them pop up all over the place, like this one in Connecticut, there's still no explanation as to what they are, who's operating them, where they're coming from, or why. News Nation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh is with me live this morning for the latest. Rich, you've been in the field with police investigating these drones. Have they given you any updates or explanations?
Good morning, Marky. Well, updates, yes. Explanations, no. On a federal level, I reached out to the FBI. They say they have nothing to tell us at this time. On a background call with reporters, they said they largely dismissed some 5,000 sightings as manned aircraft, but they say that there's over 100, at least 100, that still need further investigating. Now, on a state level, Sean Golden, the Monmouth County Sheriff, he constructed this heat map with every reported possible sighting. He tells me that the reporting sightings of drones locally have decreased. Nearby Ocean County Sheriff Michael Mastronardi, he's the one who has that drone unit, who brought me along with them. He says they've been investigating, but the reports of drone sightings, they've also decreased. This doesn't obviously solve the mystery. The feds have repeatedly said that the spike in drone sightings does not pose national security.
Just going to skip ahead a bit.
We had one drone unit flying basically at us. Take a look.
We had one that was flying basically at us and stopped midair and did a 180. Then we had another one that looked like as it went up, the lights just turned off on it and it was gone. Most of the ones that we've gotten reports of have all been fixed wing drones, instead of like a quadcopter like we have, which is, the body of the drone and then 4 arms that come off.
So his account, Marky, runs obviously counter to the narrative, nothing to see here, and obviously why.
Yeah, that's basically that one. I just looked for a quick update of the most recent drone video. I found one. Where are we? It's not super related, but it's related to drones, and might be a nice change of pace. I just searched for a local drone video, and I found this one. Someone saves a dog with a drone. So, a feel good video. You reckon? So look, I know it's not super hard hitting or anything, but
brother, I think. So that's going to be my war cry on this. If you want puppies to die, ban drones. That's where I'm going with that.
There you go. Chuck Schumer wants that dog dead. Frozen.
That's right. Chuck Schumer and Gary Peters from Michigan, they want to kill the puppies and ban the drones. Well, look, folks, I hope this afternoon and this evening was informative. It's in the morning of tomorrow. Chris is coming from us in the future. Look, I think we just need to be aware of what's going on, and we need to be aware of how easily the American people are manipulated. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like, subscribe, all those good things. I think we're going to look at creating a separate channel altogether for the Counter Media podcast and continue to develop this out a little bit. Get some intro music, little theme song. Chris is working on. He's working on the vocals of that.
But then I thought Nate came in with the fire music. I thought, okay, well, I can't beat that. But
yeah, I
missed
must have missed that conversation. Oh yeah, you gotta be careful with music on social media. So we gotta have. Anyways, I'll talk to him. I got some subscriptions where we can peel music off and use it without getting hammered by any of the other platforms. All right, folks.
I can try coming up with some stuff.
Yeah, and I'll show you the. Oh, there you go. And I'll give you access to some of the sites I have if you want to look at some music there too. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you tuning in. Hope you got something out of it. Hope you had fun. I'm gonna go take some medicine, I think, and go to sleep. And Chris is gonna get his day started. He's on. You're in Saturday there, right?
Yeah, Saturday is
15 hours ahead of me.
Let you know from the future. Saturday's a good one.
So just so you guys know, Chris is proof that we survive at least through tomorrow. 100%. All right, folks. Well, listen, we appreciate you tuning in. And I still don't have a different outro. So until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.